Well, we finally got the seat frames assembled for both the 8-passenger Yellowstone coach and this 11-passenger as well. I think you followed along with that. But there is a brace or a framework that goes right down the middle, and then in between the rear seat and the middle seat on this 8-passenger, it is recessed down to allow a place for the passengers to step through. And on this 11-passenger, between the front and the second seat, there's a short framework here, and this is recessed down again to allow for passengers to step through. And it's done here on the rear as well, between the rear seat and the second seat. So there needs to be some short framework that actually comes up to the same height as this joint work here, because there's a long lateral that connects all these two together and eventually comes into this front curved piece. So this is the pattern that I made for these. So I can use this as the same pattern, but only come up this high to make these center short frameworks. And these, of course, will be made from the same 1 inch wide and 1 1/8 inch thick as the frames for the seats. So I do still have to fit this notch here for the joint of the lateral. That's kind of how they're going to set. About like so. Do the final finish fit here in a minute. So the best way to check for square, as you all know, is to measure diagonally. 48 3/4, 48 3/4. So this seat sets nice and square. And when I was initially putting these in, I was checking for square on the diagonal this direction. And we're both right at 45 3/8 this way. So we're setting pretty square, and I think we're the same both, 45 3/8. So we're setting square this direction, and our seat base is square on this 8-passenger. And on this 11, when I check the diagonal on this front seat, and 49 7/8, and 49 7/8. So we're setting nice and square there. 46 1/4, remember that's what we wanted. 46 1/4. So this seat is setting square as well. The second seat, 46, actually about 3/16. So let me check this diagonal here. We're actually at 50 1/8. 49 3/4. So I am actually 3/8 of an inch out of square. I need to adjust this. So this is my short side. I actually need to bring this side over. The question is, how do I do that? once my Titebond 3 is all set up. If I check the diagonal this other direction, I'm at 46 and 3/8. I was 46 and 3/16. So this actually needs to shift this direction to the left of the coach. The rear, we're right at 46 1/4, so we are square on this frame, but I'm not square on this frame. So you all know by now that I typically use Titebond 3. It is a waterproof glue, and generally when you glue up a piece of wood with that and try to break that joint, the wood will break before the glue does. So how do I get this to adjust when I have such a strong glue? There's several different ways that kind of pop up when you look into this. Some recommend using alcohol, some suggest using acetone, but those generally won't get into a deep joint like what I have here. That inside face joint is 3/4 of an inch in at the top, and it feathers out to nothing on the bottom. So I have a 3-way glued joint. I'm glued on both sides, and I'm glued on the face as well. So if I just try to pull this over, something is going to give, or my wood is going to break. I just need to go a little bit. So how do I do that when I have cured glue? So I'm going to pull the screws out of my bottom joint. I'll do that on both sides. And ideally, all of these seat frames should be in line, but when I put a straight edge on there, you can see that this frame is setting too far to the right, which is what the diagonal measurement shows. So this does need to go to the left to help line these up. And if I do this on the left side, you can see this one doesn't make contact. Again, we need to shift to the left. So my goal is actually to pull this toward the left. And if I do this to pull this into square, I'm at 50. I was at 50 1/8. There's a lot of tension on that. I don't want to go too far. I'm at 49 7/8 and 49 15/16. It actually needs to go a little further. But if I let this loose, you see it's just going to spring right back. That wood will flex, but it's not going to stay in that position. So in the past, you have seen me alter the shape of wood by using heat. Either I can put it on my wood stove, or I take my acetylene or propane torch and heat it up with a soft flame to a point where that wood is so hot that I can't hold it, and then make this wood adjust slightly. I could possibly do that. I would alter this frame a little bit. Where it would bend is going to be on this narrower spot, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to alter the condition or the characteristics of the glue, but I can soften it up and allow this to move in the joints just a little bit to make the seat square up by using that same principle of using my cutting torch. I put a real soft flame on it, and I move fairly quickly, try not to char that wood, and I can get that wood to where it is hot, even into that 3/4 of an inch depth, to get in to that face joint as well as my edge joints, and soften that glue enough without altering its characteristics to allow it to move just a hair, and I'll hold it just past and then hold it there till that glue cools off and resets, and I think we can bring this into square. So I am going to start by putting just a little bit of pressure on this joint to get it go the right direction. And I'm going to bring a second clamp in just inside this other clamp, put it right on top of this framework, clamp it to the side of my main frame, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of down pressure on this one. What I hope to accomplish is to soften the glue enough to where I can set this down a little bit. That other joint is going to rotate just a little bit and hopefully bring this over to where it will square up. Pretty soft. So I want to move fairly quickly so I don't char the outside. I may get just a little bit, but I just want to build that heat up. There are sometimes those that suggest taking a hair dryer to them, or maybe a paint stripping heat gun. That would actually generate a lot more heat than a hair dryer would, which the stripper gun might work well, but I've always just used this torch. You can see it's starting to get a little bit of a darker color there, which happens pretty regular. Then I'm going to go to the right side and do that one as well, and just kind of bounce back and forth. This is the left side. The heat that I put on the left side, that first one, it'll just retain in that wood. So as I go back and forth, it'll just continue to build and penetrate into those inner layers where that glue is at. Getting pretty hot. I'm going to put a little more pressure on my pipe clamp. And go back to the other side. Warm, it's not hot. Put a little more pressure on this clamp as well. And go back to the other side. Add a little more pressure. Just a little more pressure. When that glue just starts to soften up, you can make it shift just enough. I should get a measurement on my cross angles on the top. I was at 50 1/8. I'm now at 49 7/8. I'm going to go just a little past. There's 49 13/16. And I'll take my straight edge. See, now I am an 1/8 inch too far that way, and I was an 1/8 inch too far this way, 8 3/16. So I can release that just a bit, but I'm actually going to let that cool Maybe take my pressure off and see. I'm almost released right there. I'm going to let that cool off right there. And if I check the left side, I was recessed here, and now I'm proud. So I'm going to take this clamp that I have on here and release a little more pressure on that. Don't want it to set too far. Right there, we're almost perfect. I have no pressure on that clamp now. So I'm going to just hold that right there and let it cool off. So while that's cooling, I'd like to draw attention to the front of my shirt. You may have noticed this dark spot right here. Right after I bought this shirt, believe it or not, I do buy new shirts, I was doing some gluing with this Titebond 3 and happened to rub up against some wet glue and it stuck on this shirt. Well, this has been probably 2 years ago and washed numbers of times. And that glue truly is waterproof. It will never come out of this shirt. And that's why I like it in all of these horse-drawn vehicles, because they're being driven outside in all kinds of weather, if they aren't just on display somewhere. But this glue, Titebond 3, is a really good glue. So I'm not altering the structure of that glue, I'm just softening it so I can make it move just a bit and adjust these joints, and when that cools off and firms up, it'll hold it just like it was initially. And then with these all in line, I can put my little short framework in, and I'll use my straight edge and I'll make sure this is all in line, and then mark out my joint work here for my lateral, and this will all fit right in line, and this will actually be the top of the cutout where the passenger steps through. Well, you see, I was a little careless with my torch. Need to be more careful with my torch, huh? It's been about a half hour and they are cool to the touch, so we'll take off our clamps and see what we've got. So as I put my straight edge on there, we're just right in line. That's just perfect. Check the left side. That's right where we want it as well. All three are touching just right. And as I check my cross measurements, we're within a 1/16 of an inch. That'll certainly work. So this is the biggest thing, having this in line, so when my side panel goes on, it's all straight. And then do this cross measurement as well. We're right at 46 1/4, where all the rest of them are at. And this is one of those cases when I am gluing all these joints up, I have so many things I'm trying to concentrate on that one thing I didn't do was cross measure the seat base themselves. I was doing all this other cross checking and then trying to clamp this direction, trying to clamp this direction, trying to bring all these joints down, because I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 joints roughly that I'm trying to bring all together and make sure they're seated up. And inadvertently, I just didn't check that one measurement until after everything was set up. But applying heat seems to work. Been able to adjust this Titebond 3 after it's set up in a kind of a minor manner, but sometimes that is enough. The other option would have been to cut things out, and it would have been a mess, or I would have had crooked sideboards. So if you find yourself in a spot where maybe you misjudge things just a little bit, you can take this glue, heat it back up, and make it soft enough to make it pliable that you can make little adjustments. It doesn't take much down here to get a lot of result up here. I have done this type of adjustment up to being a ½ inch off and got it to work. You know, there's an old saying out there that I know all of you have heard: the mark of a good carpenter is how well he hides his mistakes. You know, and I'm not trying to hide a mistake, but sometimes the mark of a carpenter is how you can fix a mistake. I didn't have these quite correct, and this is one way on a glued joint that's already set up that you can make a little bit of an adjustment and make things work. Hope it helps. Appreciate coming along. Thanks for watching.